This week I'm taking you through our entire 7-day itinerary through Portland, the Columbia River Gorge, and the Oregon coast, and then back to Portland again. I'll take you everywhere we went and give you a few recommendations to help you plan your trip. We started this trip in Portland, Oregon. This is where we arrived, and for the first night of our stay, we chose to stay in the outskirts of the city in Beaverton. Now, why did we choose this? Well, we used to live in this area, so we were here for nostalgic reasons, and we also found it convenient to downtown via Highway 26 and a little more affordable because parking is free. Whatever part of the city you choose to stay in, spend your first night getting to know the local neighborhood. Every neighborhood in Portland is so unique. There's a wide variety of restaurants, and the coffee culture in Portland is outstanding, so don't miss visiting a local coffee shop during your stay. When you're in the Portland area, one of my local recommendations is to visit a McMenamins. This is a unique, family-owned company based in Portland, operating numerous venues across Oregon and Washington since 1983. I love historic buildings, and this is right up my alley. They create immersive, whimsical spaces, often featuring eclectic art and on-site breweries, and they often have things such as live music. If you have an opportunity to visit one of these, I highly recommend it. Now, we visited the McMenamins Grand Lodge. Now, this is outside of the town, and so our trip did take us west of Portland. So this was on the side of town that we wanted to visit. And this was a special event. We were meeting some friends of ours out here, and this place was so cool. We ate dinner here, and we toured the property. You can just wander around and find all these unique spaces throughout the lodge. It's also a hotel. Now, we didn't stay there. I would have loved to, however, but you can just come for dinner or you can stay the night. This is just an example of what you'll find at one of the McMenamins properties. Now, we come back to Portland at the end of our trip, and we'll be staying in the downtown area, so you're going to see more of that part of the city near the end of the video. On our first full day of sightseeing, we are stopping at the most popular tourist attraction in the area, Multnomah Falls. It's about 45 minutes to an hour drive east of Portland, depending on where in the city you're staying, and it's literally right off Highway 84.
Now, this highway is a historic highway that goes all the way back to Portland, so we're going to go back that way and show you what sights there are to see. And there's a parking lot right here, right next to the falls. But if you want to park right off Highway 84, it's easy to walk under that bridge. This is the most awe-inspiring waterfall. Now, this waterfall is so large, I can't even get it all in the camera frame. Now, we're going to attempt to hike up to that bridge over there so we can see the waterfall from the top. So we're going to follow these stairs and head up to the falls. Now, it says here this is a day use only, but it's just 0.2 of a mile to Multnomah Falls Bridge. You can go 1 mile to the top of the falls, 1.8 on Yaquina Trail, and 6.8 Larch Mountain. So you can make a full day of hiking all over this area if you'd like. Here we've made it to the bridge, and you can expect a good mist. Wow. Whew. You will get wet. We're going to try to make it to the top.
If you want to take the journey to the top, it is pretty awesome. It is paved the whole way, and there are many, many switchbacks. You can see beautiful views of the gorge. And at the top, you can see the water as it's feeding the waterfall. You can walk along the water. There's plenty of places to sit, hang out, enjoy the view, and there's many other trails back in the area as well.
This is spectacular.
After we enjoyed the views at the top, we headed on down and we got a bite to eat at the Multnomah Cafe. There's plenty of snacks here to choose from. Now note that this total visit at Multnomah took us about 2 hours. Also note that I was filming, so I take a little longer than normal because I'm always stopping to take that perfect shot. Then we headed back on Highway 84. Now we continued down just a little further so we could get back on the historic highway and drive back and stop at all the beautiful waterfalls along the way.
So this historic highway goes between the railroad track and the mountain, and there are waterfalls along the way, and there are these little old tunnels where the highway used to go get carved through the rock. We're going to come check that out, but there are so many stops along the way, and there's just small little parking areas. So you need to kind of go slow, pay attention, and wait for a parking space, because a lot of people just park, go see the waterfall, get back in the car. So if you just kind of park to the side and wait, you'll get a space.
Now here we drive back past Multnomah Falls, and now you can really see why Multnomah was the first place on the agenda. It gets really crowded really fast. Now we're going to stop at several of the waterfalls. In fact, every waterfall that we could find right off the road that we could park and check out. And every one of these waterfalls has a large number of trails in and around the area. So you could really spend as much time as you'd like exploring the nature here.
Now we've stopped at Bridal Veil. It looks like there's a Bridal Veil Falls. I think it went under the road, and then there is a walk to an overlook loop. So this waterfall actually runs under the highway, so you can't see it when you're on the road. So from the parking lot, the trail goes down and down and down, and then you can look up onto the waterfall. So this is one of the highlights of the drives after you see waterfall after waterfall after waterfall. Vista Crown Point. The views are spectacular, so make sure you stop and get out and take a look. You can see the river, you can see the gorge all the way down, snowy mountains in the distance, and this beautiful structure here.
This is a great place to stop on the road trip. It's a beautiful historic structure. Inside there is a museum. There is a snack bar, there's a coffee shop, and you can go out back for beautiful views of the river as well. After a long day of sightseeing, we did stop for a delicious coffee.
This afternoon I'm going to show you one of my favorite places here in Portland. This is Washington Park. It's a beautiful area. We have the International Test Rose Garden. We have the Japanese Garden, and there's some other places. It's been a while since I've been here, but it's absolutely spectacular. It's a beautiful afternoon. So this International Test Rose Garden had something like 10,000 roses. This is like the place where they test new hybrid varieties of roses. Now we're here in March, so it's a little too early. You can see they've all been planted and freshly pruned. Around the perimeter of the park, there's a lot of bushes that have, they look like roses. I'm not a rose expert, so I don't know what they are, but there's a lot of things blooming on the perimeter of the park. But these here are, it's too early. It's not rose season yet.
If you can time your trip when these roses are blooming, you are in for a real treat. Even though there were no roses, just look at these cherry blossoms. It was quite stunning. Then we headed over to walk the Japanese gardens. This was one of my fondest memories from when I used to live in Portland. No, it's a little on the pricey side to visit, but it is so, so pretty, so well done. You can walk through these peaceful gardens and enjoy the serenity. There's several different gardens with different designs, and there's a tea house and there's a restaurant, and there's just a wonderful selection of things you can see here.
We woke up this morning in Beaverton. We are going to spend a couple of days over the weekend going down the Oregon coast, and we're going to end up in Eugene. So we have on the agenda today Cannon Beach and the Tillamook Creamery and anything else that looks interesting that we want to stop at for today's drive. We're just going to walk around the downtown and see what kind of shops are here, take a look at Haystack Rock, and enjoy the scenery. It's just pretty. We're here today on a Saturday, so all of the restaurants are pretty busy. What I love is this gray wood. I don't know if it's like a cedar look. That is the architecture of Cannon Beach. This is the intersection of Hemlock and 2nd. Go straight ahead to the ocean, I guess, and then we're gonna walk around. We're gonna go see the ocean, and then we're gonna walk around on some of these adorable streets here in Cannon Beach. Now there are tons of little locally owned motels and apartments in this town. This is a great place to stay, and what a lovely weekend. The sun is shining bright. In fact, this is the first time I've been in Cannon Beach when the sun has been shining. So we are super lucky. Let's see what our first view is. There's a lot of people on the beach today. Can't even see Haystack Rock from here. Okay, we're going to continue our walk down 2nd Street. There's a smokehouse back there, Bill's Tavern Brew House. I think I've been there before. It's a good place. It's a historical site. The original Bill's Tavern, built in 1923, it said. Sandpiper Square. Ice cream. Here's the candy store. There's the Birkenstock store. The flowers are gorgeous. The Lazy Susan Cafe. Wine Shack. Coaster Theater Playhouse back in there. Okay, so we just walked down Hemlock, the main drag here on the north end of Cannon Beach. This is where a lot of the shops and restaurants are located. So we're gonna get in the car and we're gonna drive a little further south because we would like to see Haystack Rock. Parking here is at an absolute premium, so I recommend you're just gonna have to pull in and wait for someone to leave and bring your patients. So all the side streets are saved for the people that live there, so there's not a lot of public parking. We really want to see Haystack Rock. We waited patiently and found a place, so we're headed to the beach now. Right here by the Wayfarer restaurant is a great access point to the beach. Ecola Court and Gower. There it is, the beautiful and the mighty Haystack Rock. What a beautiful day today. This is the most people I've ever seen on the beach here, and at low tide, there are a lot of tide pools here. It's a windy day, it is chilly, but beautiful.
There's a reason Cannon Beach keeps showing up on every favorite Oregon coast list, and the moment you arrive, you understand why. Haystack Rock rises 235 feet straight out of the surf, one of the most recognizable sea stacks on the entire Pacific coast. And it sets the tone for everything here. It's dramatic, unhurried, and deeply alive. At low tide, the rocks around Haystack become a living aquarium. You can crouch down to find purple sea urchins, sea stars, hermit crabs, and anemones tucked into every crevice. Tufted puffins are also known to nest on the rock itself each spring and summer. This stretch of coastline has a way of slowing you down and making you pay attention, and that, more than anything, is why people keep coming back. Now on this trip to Cannon Beach, we ate at Pig and Pancake. We were looking for a good hearty breakfast, more like a brunch really, after driving here and exploring the town before we headed down further. Now I have been to Cannon Beach on several occasions, and I do enjoy breakfast at the Wayfarer. If you'd like something a little more fancy with views of Haystack Rock, you can find some great food here. There's also several breweries worth visiting if you're going to stay a while. In total on this trip, we spent about 2 hours exploring Cannon Beach. All right, after eating, we head south on 101, leaving Cannon Beach towards Tillamook. This stretch of the Oregon coast was genuinely one of the most beautiful drives. There are so many scenic pullouts, and if you have enough time, you'll pass through Arch Cape and Oswald West State Park area. Here's just a sample of some of the beautiful views we encountered along the way. Manzanita, Wheeler, Rockaway Beach, each one worth a slow roll through. Then we head into Garibaldi, which is a fishing town that definitely looks the part. This section is the real Oregon coast, not the postcard Oregon coast. Then the highway turns inland, the ocean disappears, and suddenly you're in the Tillamook Valley.
It is an insanely windy day here in Oregon, and we've made it to our next stop. This is the Tillamook Creamery, and we are big fans of Tillamook ice cream and cheese, and we have been for a long, long time. So we've never visited the creamery here, and so we're gonna go sample the cheese and ice cream and see what kind of a tour they have here that we can check out. Very popular spot. milks the cow.
We took the self-guided tour where you can learn all about dairy farming, and then there are viewing windows where you can watch the manufacturing line. That was my favorite part. You can sample the cheese products upstairs, and there's a giant store if you want to take some packaged goods home. We then headed downstairs for the main attraction, which is to sample the ice cream.
So that was the longest line for ice cream, and there was a separate line for the ice cream and a separate line for the food. So if you come with a group, you're definitely going to want to split up your group because it probably took 45 minutes to get through the line, I think. Anyway, I'm going to say that cherry is our favorite out of the three that we got. It's quite delicious. All right, folks, well, that's what you can find at the Tillamook Creamery. You know, that's something I've wanted to do since we lived here back in 2000. And so it was a lot of fun and very tasty treats and big crowds for this holiday weekend. So we're staying in Lincoln City. This has taken much longer today than we had anticipated. I think the traffic and the crowds have made things a lot slower than we thought. So we're not going to have as much time to stop at all the state parks and do some hiking today. So we're going to head down the coast. We're staying in Lincoln City. We have a really great hotel. I will show you that here shortly. If there's anything super scenic to see along the way, I'll be sure to stop and show you. Otherwise, I'll see you in Lincoln City.
Another site you might be interested in the area is the Tillamook Air Museum. This is a 6-blimp hangar that was built by the United States Navy in 1942 during World War II. This was the largest clear-span wooden structure in the world. After checking out the Waimea wayfinding point, we realized we had to stop stopping and made our way to the hotel. This hotel here was absolutely fantastic, and this was one major splurge I had on the trip. And honestly, it wasn't too bad for what we got. We paid somewhere in the $300 a night range, and we had this beautiful 2-bedroom room that overlooked the water. Now, it was a really windy day. Apparently, every day is a windy day on the Oregon coast. So having a room with a view was amazing. Now, that evening for dinner, we went to a restaurant called Moe's that somebody we met at the hotel recommended. Now, we enjoyed it. It did end up being a pretty touristy kind of a place. And apparently it's pretty controversial. Either you love it or you hate it. I've received lots of comments about this from a previous video. At any rate, the sky was absolutely fantastic. So the next morning, I took a beautiful walk around the area. You can walk down to the beach right here for some tide pooling if you're interested. The hotel has a fantastic free breakfast and delicious coffee from Portland. I do highly recommend this place. And now it's time to head down the coast. Our ultimate destination was Eugene, and this is the path we took. I'll show you what we found today. This is the main drag of Lincoln City. I thought it was really cute, and if I were to take this trip again, I would love to spend some more time right here in the middle of town. Not too far from here is a very interesting roadside stop. This is a sign recognizing the site of an earthquake over 9.0 on the Richter scale. It happened in the 1700s. Moe's restaurant is right over here. This is Boiler Bay State Scenic Viewpoint. This sits just north of Devil Bay. It's named after a steam schooner that wrecked and burned here in 1910. Its boiler is still visible at low tide. It's a fantastic whale watching and tide pooling spot, and the rocky inlet creates dramatic wave action that draws visitors year-round. When we were here, there were volunteers all up and down the Oregon coast to share with you the whale watching opportunities. And here's a look at Depot Bay. All right, this next area you cannot miss. You can follow the signs to Otter Rock or Devil's Punch Bowl. Now, I could just kick myself because I didn't actually know what I was looking for here, but there is this amazing rock formation that is a big bowl off the side of the cliff. So when you get here, look over the side of the cliff all around, and the best viewing depends on the tide. But we followed the signs because we were hungry, and there were signs for like chocolate and coffee, and we found this adorable little shop here, which we stopped at, and we did enjoy the views. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. So please make time for this stop when you head down the coast. And if you can't find the punch bowl, then ask some folks.
Oh, yummy. That was a great little sweet treat place, and they have samples of all their fudge. So if you want to just get a taste, maybe buy a nice cup of coffee, I recommend you stop in there. All right, let's go see what the views are like here at this picnic area right across the street while they make the coffee. There's tons of picnic tables here. Very reminiscent of Northern California. I have never been on this section of the coast, and it's just whet my appetite. I want to come back. I would love to spend weeks visiting every little site up the coast. Just spectacular. Looks like this has fallen in from erosion. Look at these cliffs. Holy cow. And there go the surfers. This looks like a nice cove for surfing for sure. Okay, so off we go, continue down the coast. As we entered the town of Newport, we could see a lighthouse in the distance. And so we followed the signs and we ended up in a fee area, Yaquina, the Yaquina natural area here. I'm probably butchering the name, but there is tide pools, there's a lighthouse, there's an interpretive center. I really wanted to come see the lighthouse. You're just gonna have to apologize for my hair. The wind is brutal today, but I'm just in love with this coastline. It is so beautiful and rugged, so unique. Here's our first view. Woo! So this is a BLM conservation area. Okay, that's what it is. Yaquina Head. Outstanding natural area. Let's see what the coastline looks this way. So this little piece of earth is beautiful.
At 93 feet tall, Yaquina Head Lighthouse is the tallest lighthouse on the Oregon coast, and it's still operating since 1873. This is operated by BLM, and you can find harbor seals and migrating whales offshore. When we visited in late March, there were volunteers here to help answer your questions about the whales.
So far this week, our stations along the coast, there has been over 300 sightings.
Wow.
Tuesday.
If you want to go deeper into the natural side of this place, follow the signs down to Cobble Beach. It's a short walk from the main parking area. It's an amazing place for tide pooling.
All right, so the state park has a number of volunteers. We've seen them up and down the coast, the whale watching volunteers, and so they'll tell you all about the gray whale migration that's going on up and down the coast. Now, they did say that today, because of the strong winds, they're really hard to see because you typically see the spout of water, and when it's so windy like this, you can't really detect it because the water sprays everywhere as soon as they spray out. But you'll see them. They're wearing the jackets. I saw them at one of the bays up a little further north. Super friendly, and will answer any of your questions, and will give you a fantastic I Love Oregon whale watching sticker. So we have still got to make it down the coast some more, so we're going to head out of here for now. Again, more beauty here on the Oregon coast.
Now here's another place, if I had more time, I would have loved to explore Newport. And in this town, there is a aquarium that also looked interesting. I do love visiting aquariums. There is no shortage of places to go and things to do in this area. We have a lot of ground to cover, so we're going to continue on down the coast. By this time, we were really starving for lunch, and the Green Salmon Coffee Company caught my eye. So we pulled in and stopped. The food was so good, but we actually had no idea this was a full vegetarian restaurant. Here's another place that's a, oh my gosh, I can't believe we missed it. We were right here. I saw it off the coastline. I saw the pathway, but I didn't realize what I was missing. This is Thor's Well, and it is a natural sinkhole in the ocean, and it looks absolutely incredible. So plan extra time on your visit so you can hike down and see this incredible feature.
We have finally arrived at the Sea Lion Caves here in Florence, Oregon. Now, the last section of coastline that we just drove by was the most spectacular. Sheer cliffs, big mountains to the left, and gorgeous rocky ocean to the right. And I was driving and I couldn't stop. I wanted to stop at every single stop, but then we would have never gotten to our destination. So we have arrived. We have to go something like 200 feet downhill into the caves, the largest sea cave in America, I believe. So I'm going to take you on this tour. It is $18 a person to visit here. Oh, hi. I'm a little windblown today. Today she said they have something like 150 sea lions down in the cave. This is America's largest sea cave. So the fall is the bad time of year to be here. That's when a lot of the sea lions swim offshore. Other than that, you can count on finding them here. And there is adorable gift shop here. I'm scared. The wind is so bad. Ooh, look at the flowers. All right, maybe it won't be so windy inside the cave. Beautiful cliffs here. These flowers smell good, and there's a hint of like a coconut smell. All right, I'll be back with you when we get to the cave. There's an elevator, I think, that goes down like 200 feet. And in the meantime, these yellow flowers smell amazing. Now the GoPro does really bad in dark light conditions. I'll attempt to hold the camera, but I'm gonna have to break out my cell phone for most of this. What on earth? Sounds like a horror movie. Wow. I'm just telling you, this is literally like the scariest sounds I have ever heard. This is like horror flick extraordinaire. And I'm having a really hard time getting... Oh my God, that is wild. Captain Cox came upon this sea lion skeleton in 1880 when he first discovered this sea cave. I wonder if this is truly the original. It says it is. So this here at the top of the steps is the original public entrance. The elevator was completed in 1961. This is a nice sheltered spot to see the lighthouse in the distance. Gorgeous. So boy, that was a surprise. That was super, super cool. I can't even believe how many sea lions are in there, and it just sounds like a cave of demons in that cave. So this is definitely a site you need to check out here on the Oregon coast in Florence.
We had heard about these sand dunes near Florence, and we drove all the way down to Dune City looking for them. But it turns out they weren't readily accessible from the highway we were on, and we tried a few different paths, but we kept running into private properties. So this was a no-go for us. If this is something you want to visit, you're going to need to do your research in advance of exactly what areas you want to find. But look at this really beautiful area that we found right behind a grocery store of Fred Meyer here in town. That was a real surprise. So we took a little walk to enjoy the view. Now it was time to head inland towards Eugene. Now, full disclosure, we were in the area to visit the University of Oregon. We were on a college tour circuit that we worked into this trip as well. So that's what we did the following day, and then in the afternoon, we went to Corvallis to visit Oregon State. Now, if college tours is not on your itinerary, I recommend you visit Silver Falls State Park. I have heard so many amazing things about this, the beautiful waterfalls that are in the area, and we just didn't have time to make it on our trip. But if you're planning your 7-day itinerary, I recommend that you take a stop there. And now we're on our way back to Portland. And if it's a clear day, be sure and keep a lookout for Mount Hood in the distance, one of the most beautiful sights from Portland.
We have made a grand tour around Oregon, and now we're going to be walking downtown Portland. Now, I haven't been here in a long time, and it's kind of gotten a bad rap lately about the downtown area, so I'm going to give you a walking tour and you can see what it's really like. I do notice that Portland has a dedicated bike lane on this street. I know firsthand because I accidentally pulled my car in there. I believe we are approaching Pioneer Square. The Starbucks coffee here on Morrison and Broadway. It looks to me like Pioneer Square. It is! Pioneer Square. Now, I spent New Year's Eve, 1999 New Year's Eve, right here in Pioneer Square, waiting for the infamous Y2K. Oh, the Nordstrom's Espresso Bar. So this is Nordstrom behind us, Pioneer Square across the street. That's nice. Pioneer Courthouse right there. And a nice seating area. This is incredible weather for Portland, Oregon. It is about 72 degrees and bright and sunny, and we could see Mount Hood on the freeway heading over here. Oh, here's the Columbia store. Right here on Taylor and Broadway. So Broadway and Salmon, the cultural district, right here by the Heathman Hotel. And there we are in Portland.
Is that the local sign?
Don't think so.
You think? No, it's not. It's not.
I'm pretty sure this is where we saw the Schnitzer Concert Hall. So in the 90s, we saw Chris Cornell and Fiona Apple perform at this theater when we lived here in Portland. The Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall. There's a variety of concerts here. So I just happen to be a lover of books, even though I don't have much time to read nowadays. But libraries, bookstores, there's just a certain feeling that I love. And there's something just so quintessential Portland is Powell's Books. Takes this whole block from all the way over there, all the way over to here. And apparently we're in the Pearl District, according to the signs. Some really pretty... No, we're going to Powell's Books. The hotel's like right there. Yeah. So not only is Powell's Books like over a block long, but it's multiple stories. And in the back of that building, they have a really cool coffee shop. So we went and got a drink, sat down and relaxed with beautiful natural lighting. It was a great place to visit during your time in Portland. So now we're headed back to the Benson Hotel. I'm getting a little low on my battery. Hopefully I'll make it all the way back to the hotel. And then I'll give you a walkthrough tour of the hotel. And it's considered a historic hotel. And they have like a historic stairwell in the hotel with a lot of old photographs from the history of Portland.
The Benson Hotel is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It opened in 1913 and was built by lumber baron and philanthropist Simon Benson in the French Second Empire style. Has an opulent lobby with Italian marble floors, Austrian crystal chandeliers, and rare walnut walls imported from Imperial Russia. It is so beautiful. But the most remarkable part of this hotel is the historic stairwell. This is a 12-story original marble staircase that serves as a mini museum. Now you're going to have to ask how to find it because it is not obvious, but it displays over 160 photos and stories documenting Portland's history, the hotel's century-long transformation, and many famous visitors who have stayed here throughout the years. Okay, on this final day here in Portland, we decided to explore one of the many coffee shops in the downtown area. We went to Java Man Coffee and it was amazing. We wanted to continue the spin on historic properties and we went up near Washington Park to Pittock Mansion. This historic mansion is perched atop the West Hills of Portland, Oregon, and it is a stunning 1914 French Renaissance chateau that offers visitors a captivating glimpse into the grandeur of the Pacific Northwest's early 20th century elite. It was built for newspaper pioneer Henry Pittock and his wife Georgiana. It's a 16,000 square foot estate and it is a masterpiece of architectural elegance. If you love historic properties, you will not be disappointed in your visit here. Beyond the mansion itself, it is surrounded by 46 acres of grounds and includes some breathtaking views of the city skyline, Mount Hood, and Mount St. Helens if you can get up there on a clear day. Visiting Pittock Mansion delivers a rich and memorable experience that beautifully blends culture, history, and natural beauty. Now, we had just a short time before we had to take our afternoon flight out of town, and the airport is located on the north side of Portland, right along the river. So we decided to spend a little bit of time in Vancouver, Washington before we left the area.
So our very last stop before we head home on this trip, we came over to Vancouver, Washington. We had a few hours to kill the last day before our flight goes home. So we stopped at the waterfront and we came into the Waterfront Tap House for a delicious lunch. We're gonna walk a little bit on the waterfront before we leave and take you to a little coffee shop. It was the last stop on this trip.
I really enjoyed walking around in this waterfront area. It's beautifully done and very clean. This coffee shop was pretty dang good and it got us through until we checked in at the airport. Now, each one of these locations has a full-length video on my channel, so if you'd like a little more in-depth information from each of these stops, you can read the description below with links to all the accompanying videos. Thank you so much for taking this journey with us through Oregon, and I'd love to have you along for future trips, so hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to leave a like. Thanks so much for watching.